Welcome to No Romance Without Finance. Today's pod is so timely because we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is broke dudes and why a woman should never date a broke dude. And Jordan, before we actually get into the podcast, I want to talk about what happened over the past few days with Keke Palmer. Are you up on this?
I am up on this. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
I wish I wasn't,
right,
but I am.
Right, exactly. And I did a video on this on TikTok. And for the listeners that don't know, let me just give you a little bit of background. So Keke Palmer, she's an amazing actress. She's an artist. She's amazing. So she has a baby with this guy who was broke. He's a stay-at-home dad. He didn't have money when they met. He still doesn't have any money of his own. Any project that he's ever done are projects that she has put him in, right? So he's never done anything on his own. And she pays all the bills. She writes all the checks. And she was actually on Steve Harvey. Do you remember seeing her on Steve Harvey a little while ago?
I saw that clip kind of floating around. It was the one where he was basically telling her that she always dates broke dudes and she should stop that.
He wanted to set her up with some people and men that, had their shit together. And she was like, no, I don't really care about money. And, I want to be humble. And she is very humble, to her credit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she was like, no, I want to stay humble. So she gets together with this guy, Darius, and she has a baby with him. And what happened over the past couple of days is that she was in Vegas at the Usher concert. And she got up on stage and Usher was serenading her like we've seen in thousands and thousands of concerts, right? And it was so cute. Yes. It wasn't like anything weird or salacious or he was being inappropriate. He was just like singing to her, and it was I thought it was really cute. And I loved what she was wearing. She was wearing like this bodysuit, and then on top of the bodysuit, she was wearing something that was sheer. Yeah, it was a little revealing, but like, you're in Vegas, for crying out loud. Like, come on,
right.
You're not going to church. So then he takes to Twitter, posts a picture of her and says, "It's the dress, though. You a mom, right?"
Oh,
yeah.
God.
And first of all, it's just like, all right, well, does being a mom mean that you have to wear a certain type of uniform or like...
Yeah, do you just like get moo-moos delivered
right, so you're not allowed to be
sexy,
sexy, you're not allowed to be hot. Like, what does that mean? That's the first one that I saw. And then he doubled downs on it, and this is why broke dudes are idiots, is that he doubled downs on it and then posts on Twitter again saying something to the effect of, we live in a generation where a man of the family who, can't even say anything about his woman showing off her booty cheeks and not be considered a hater. And, I have standards and this is representative of my family, that kind of stuff.
Didn't he say something like the man of the family can't say anything about his wife?
Right. Exactly. The man of the family cannot say anything about his wife. And I rest my case. And after I saw that second tweet, I was like, this is exactly why you should never date a broke ass dude. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to get into it on a few levels. First of all, they're not married. Okay. So let's start there. Like, she's not your wife. So I don't know what planet you're living on, but that's not your wife. She is the mother of your child, but that's not your wife. And another thing that really got to me is that this dude is out here posting pictures on Instagram, being practically naked, just with his drawers on, right? Just with his underwear on.
Yeah.
Thirsty ass pictures. And were his standards there? His standards are okay with him doing that, or, the man of the family. Oh, you're the man of the family. Well, you have no problem having her write all the checks and support you in your lifestyle, right? Mm-hmm. You have no problem sitting at home, not doing anything and having your woman work. I mean, is that a traditional guy? That's not right. That's not the traditional man. And I'm not saying everybody needs to be traditional. Okay. If that's what you want to do, if you want to sit at home, take care of, your kid and mooch off your woman or have her pay for everything, that's fine. I don't even care about that. And I really shouldn't have even said mooch, because some people just, they have that agreement. But then you can't turn around and be like, oh, I'm this traditional dude and I have traditional standards and I'm the man, and that kind of stuff. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, that is a huge discrepancy in the way that he phrased the entire thing. It's you're not traditional in any way, shape, or form. And non-traditional families are totally fine. Sure. But you can't have both. You can't have this traditional dynamic of I'm the man of the house, I have the final say on this, that kind of thing. And then also, live the life that he lives, which is I guess just completely in her shadow the entire time. There is also the aspect of it on top of everything else that is like, you did this publicly. Right. You know what I mean? He took to Twitter.
I was just going to say that. He is shaming her publicly. And that is really what the most disgraceful part is. Is like, if you have an issue with something that your woman is doing or your man, you address that with them privately, and she's a public figure, right? You don't go on Twitter and blast her and give men an opportunity to comment on her appearance. I mean, if that's not jacked up, I don't know what is. And the reason that he's doing all of this, the reason that he even did that is because this dude is so insecure, like every other broke ass dude. He is just insecure. And the second that he saw his woman having a good time without him, he gets triggered, right? He sees his woman up there with Usher, who is a superstar, right? Has all this money, and he can't even think straight. So instead of like, a man who's secure within himself would be laughing it off. Like, my fiance would have been like, oh my God, you look great. I hope you had a good time. Knowing that wasn't anything, he gets triggered. And that's because he doesn't have shit for himself. And when you don't have shit for yourself, the second that something happens that challenges your manhood, then you're going to start doing stupid stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that insecurity is a huge part of it. Right. Because oftentimes with anyone that's broke, man or woman, but especially with broke dudes, since that's the topic. Right. I think that there is this expectation, I'll say entitlement to being the man of the house and to having this certain level of power that being a man grants them in society what they believe they should have as a man. Patriarchy, literally, exactly. But at the same time, these broke dudes have zero accountability for the way that their life personally is. Because it'd be one thing if he had something for himself and he wanted to say all of this, right? It would still be crazy, but he could have a leg to stand on. But it's this like, instead of him stepping up, he wants to tear her down. Right. Exactly. And oftentimes that's what happens with these broke dudes. Yeah. They want these powerful women, or they want these women with money. Then they get resentful because she has money and can call the shots in her life and feels like he should be able to do that. Right. And so instead he has to convince her somehow that she's less than. Right.
He's got to bring her down. That's what he was. That's what he was doing with that, is bringing her down, making her feel bad about herself. So that's what he was doing. And then I also heard, and I didn't see this for myself, so hey, this is just hearsay, that like he tried to hit up another girl after all this happened and was like, you know what, I want to fly you out. I'm like, with whose credit card? Keke's? Like, whose credit card are you going to use to fly out this girl since you don't have any money?
Yeah, that's crazy. That is so, I'm speechless almost, because it's just like, yeah, exactly. You going to go into the room and say, "Hey, can I borrow your credit card real quick?"
Yeah, to fly some other girl out.
Pay for a Spirit Airlines ticket for some random Instagram model.
Yeah, exactly. And since then he has I guess he deactivated his Instagram and then he reactivated it, but now there's no pictures of Keke. There's nothing about Keke. So I'm just wondering what happened in that relationship in the timeline.
I mean, if I was Keke Palmer's PR agent, I would be like, if you don't leave this man, like, this could be an opportunity of a lifetime. Don't let him drag you down.
Because you know what? You heard it here first. He's going to do it again. This is not the last time this dude is doing this. I mean, this is like in the broke man playbook that, you are going to keep putting her down, and that's because you don't have shit for yourself. So
yes, 100%.
All right, now that we talked about Keke Palmer, it is so interesting that today's guest is one of my good friends, and she is here because she has dated not one, not two, but several broke dudes, and she's here to talk about the last broke dude that she dated. And the reason that I wanted her on is because women do not understand the consequences of what happens when you date a broke dude, because in the beginning, it's all about, your love goggles and you're not seeing stuff right. And, physically and mentally, you have all these endorphins and you're just not seeing what you're supposed to be seeing. But once those love goggles fade, you actually see the relationship for what it is. And you're going to see that, this relationship is a complete and utter joke. And unfortunately, you see that after a while of being disrespected, after a while of losing a lot of money on this dude. So I want to talk to Farnaz. She is going to tell us her story, which is just so funny and just so helpful to any woman out there who is even thinking about dating a broke dude or is in a relationship with broke dudes. So let's welcome Farnaz. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Pattie. Thank you for having me.
Farnaz June, and I call you Farnaz June because you're Iranian. We're Iranians. That's the way we address each other.
Yes.
So for those out there, they're like, what the hell is she saying? That's what I'm saying. So let's get into the story. So you heard us talking about Keke Palmer, right? Do you have any more insight since you've dated so many broke dudes as to, what happened there?
Well, it's funny because Jordan kind of mentioned the sense of entitlement.
Right.
And the last person that I was with, the last broke dude that I ever dated, it was just sense of entitlement. I remember at one time, I got a good bonus from work. And this was when we were together. And God forbid, I decided to spend that bonus on myself and do something nice for myself. So I had a ring custom made for myself, a diamond ring custom made for myself. Yes. And he was just so irritated by that. God. He was just so angry by it. And he was like, well, you did this. And I would ask him, I was like, well, can you help me with this?
Right.
And then he would turn around and say, well, you spent your bonus on the ring, you could have used that money to do this. And it's just like, the sense of entitlement is amazing.
It is.
And it's just it's just, I'm still thinking about it. And I'm just like,
it's shocking.
It's very shocking. There was no sense of, she's helped me out all this time. Let me at least help her a little bit.
Correct.
It was just like take, and I was literally not getting anything in return.
Right. Okay. So let's start from the beginning. How many broke dudes have you dated? Can you even count?
I've actually only
Twice.
dated
Two?
Not that many. Yeah.
Two. Okay.
Two.
Okay. I dated one. And I want to be honest with the audience is that I really learned my lesson after dating the broke dude that I dated. And this was a guy who was trying to break it into the filmmaking industry, right? And he didn't have any money. And at first I was like, you know what? Who cares? Who cares if he doesn't have any money? I have plenty of money for the both of us, right? So he moved in with me. He never paid rent, never paid utilities, never bought just any groceries, never even offered. We would go on trips and I would pay. And I started to get into financial trouble because of it, because there's only so much money I had. Like I had plenty of money for one person, but not to support two people. I mean, the only thing I wasn't giving him was pocket money. And I think he was getting that from his parents, but, and I remember one day walking in with bags of groceries in my hands. I got 3 or 4 bags and I had my purse and I walk in, I'm just struggling. I had worked all day. I went to the grocery store. I'm coming home. I have all these bags of groceries and he's on the couch eating Cheetos, like just relaxing, like nothing happened. And I remember at that moment, I was like, oh my God, I was so unattracted to this guy. Like, I was like, what in the world am I doing? But I didn't even break up with him then. He actually broke up with me later on, right? Yeah. But afterwards, I had a chance to reflect on how that relationship just hurt me, not just financially, but emotionally. And it took a toll on my self-esteem. So, when you date a broke dude, it's not just about, they're going to take my money. It's about the toll that they take. So let's start with your last broke dude. How did you meet this guy?
So I was set up.
Oh, you were? Okay.
We were set up together by a friend.
Who set you up?
Who's no longer
I was
going to
say, I hope you're no longer friends with that person.
Yeah. She is no longer, that's another whole other topic.
Okay.
Dealing with bad friends. But we were set up on a blind date.
Okay.
And
did he pay for the blind date? He
yes,
did. Okay.
He did pay for the blind date. Yes. He did pay for the blind date.
So then
in the beginning he was kind of behaving.
Okay. Right. So when did you start seeing a shift?
It was I started seeing the shift because he told me that he had to borrow his mom's car to come see me. He lived out in like an hour away. He lived an hour away, and he told me, he was like, yeah, I needed to borrow my mom's car. And then after that, he would always take the train down to come see me.
Now, at this point, when you met him, you were financially independent, right? You were making your own money.
I've been exactly. Oh. Yeah. I've been on financial independence since I've been like in my mid-20s.
Okay. So when he said he's got to borrow his mom's car, was that like a red flag to you? Because that would be a red flag to me. It's like, and how old was he at this point?
He was 4 years younger than me. So I was 30. So he was like
26.
No, I can't do my math in my head.
Okay, so he didn't have a car. Yeah. So I kind of would be like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like, you should have your own car, right?
And it's really sad, but because that was not a red flag to me. I think what happened was I was just so insecure within myself, and I was just seeking validation from a male figure, and I just wanted to have a boyfriend. I didn't want to be single. I didn't want to be alone. Right. So there was like, at that point in my life, there was like no red flags for me.
Right. And we don't see red flags when we're desperate. And this is what I tell women all the time, is that your desperation to be in a relationship is going to prevent you from seeing the red flags that you need to see.
Absolutely. And, with me, it's like, when I saw him, he was a very extremely good looking guy. Tall. He was a personal trainer.
Oh, those trainers. Oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah. He was a personal trainer, tall, just very good looking guy. And for me, I was just like, oh my God, like this guy is actually giving me a chance instead of me thinking, right? Oh Instead of me thinking, oh wait, no, I'm giving him a chance. Like I'm the prize, not him, So it was just at that point, I was just glad that this good looking guy wanted to be with me. That's all that was like, and I'm not alone. I have a boyfriend.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and we're willing to just settle, right? As long as there's a warm body next to us, we're good. We're fine. We don't need anything.
Absolutely. Exactly.
And then, all right, so you start seeing a shift. He says he's got to borrow his mom's car. Then what happens?
So he started like taking the train. Like we started, every single weekend we were together. And then it's just slowly, Pattie, I can't give you a pinpoint of like when all this started. It's just, I just fell into this trap of like paying for everything. He started giving me this sob story that they were taking child support from a previous relationship out of his paycheck.
And do you know what that means? Can I stop you there? When child support is taken out of your paycheck, that means you weren't voluntarily paying it. That's what that means.
Exactly.
So this is a dude that wasn't willing to pay child support for his kids. Second red flag.
Exactly. And then so when I met him, he had 2 kids by 2 different women.
Goodness.
I mean, you would think that would be my
he has
huge
2
red
baby
flag,
mamas.
but exactly. No, I was just happy that I've gotten this good looking
guy. And did he see his kids? Do you know?
The first one that he was paying child support for, no. Supposedly the kid's mom did not let him see
Another red flag, right?
Supposedly.
Another red flag. Why isn't she letting you see your child?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But at that time, it was just one sob story after another, and I believed him, you know. And the second one, he hardly helped her.
Wow.
What I'm talking was the kid's mother. He hardly helped her. Because he would come tell me, he was like, "Oh, she's always hitting me up, and she's always asking for this, and she's always asking for that," and it was just like I just fell into this just deep hole. And like you said, it just affected me. I was with him for 2.5 years. Wow. And I supported him completely financially, even emotionally. He was going to school. I don't want to give out too much information because, I don't want to I don't, just in case if somebody knows him, I don't want to put that out there. But he was going to school, and it was just, I supported him through his school.
And when you say supported him, what does that mean?
Yeah. So we moved in together. We moved in together after a year that we were going out. We moved in together. I was paying the rent. I was paying the utilities. I bought him a car.
Oh my gosh.
I paid for insurance. There were times that I would just fall back on the payments for the insurance because, yes, I made my own money, but just like you said, I made enough money to support myself. So I was just struggling to just make ends meet. And the insurance would, I would fall back on the insurance, and I would have to hear from him, well, the insurance on my car is canceled.
You didn't pay for my insurance.
Exactly. You didn't pay for my insurance. The insurance on my car is canceled. And throughout all this ordeal, he also constantly cheated on me.
Oh my gosh.
I would constantly find numbers. I paid for his cell phone. And at one point, I think I've mentioned this to you before in our prior conversations. I actually figured out the PIN code for his voicemail. I was sitting right next to him.
Oh my gosh.
And I kind of just looked over when he was entering it. And then later on, I would check his voicemail.
Wow.
And there'll be messages from girls in there. Wow. And it was just,
So before we get into him cheating, first of all, every woman should work for the CIA or FBI, because if we want to figure out something, we will.
Absolutely.
God, we will, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. I have a very, very good friend of mine who has found stuff on her husband. She knows who she is. I'm not going to name her by name, but I swear she could have a private investigative business if she really wanted it. Like, she's just incredible, really incredible. So Farnaz, at this point, you have a feeling that there's something going on, right? What is it? Is it your intuition? Because I think our intuitions are so great, right? As women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've always said this. I don't think nothing beats a woman's intuition. If just one piece of advice I could give is just always, always trust your intuition, because it's just our intuitions are on point.
Yes. Women have impeccable intuition, and we need to trust it. If you feel like there's something wrong, there typically is.
Absolutely. Yes.
But I want to go back to how you ended up paying for everything. Like, did you have a conversation about it? Did you just volunteer? Did he ask you to pay? How did you end up doing it?
I think it was the sob stories, and I would feel bad for him. And I would say I did volunteer. I would be like, oh, you know what? I'll take care of it. I'll help you out, because it in my head, in my heart, I wanted to believe that at some point when he finishes school and when he gets his career going, that the roles were going to get
I
reversed.
see.
But it did not happen that
Yeah.
way. It definitely did not happen
Right.
that way.
So you're
Yeah.
paying for all the expenses. He's a trainer, right? What's he doing with the money that he's making as a trainer?
Well, he didn't have that many. He worked at a
Mm-hmm.
gym, and the clients, like, he didn't have constant
Mm-hmm.
clients, so he didn't make much of money from like personal
Right.
training. And then the little money that he did make from personal training, a lot of it would go to
I
child
see.
support.
I see. And at no point did he think
So
maybe I should get another job, right? At no point did he think maybe I should get another
he
career.
he actually got another job, and he would come home and he would just be like, "Oh, I'm so tired. Give me another sob story." And being as insecure as
Mm-hmm.
I was, I wanted him with me all the time.
Right.
So I would be like, "Oh yeah, you don't need to do it. I'll
Oh my
take care of it.
gosh.
I'll
So he
take
got
care of
another
it."
job and you told him no because you wanted him next to you. Wow. Wow.
Absolutely, yeah,
Wow.
absolutely, yeah. I really had a problem about being alone.
Yes.
Which, yes, it was the validation and being
Yeah.
alone. I think that's what my big huge problem
Right. Right.
was.
And
Just very
And
insecure.
we all were, I really don't know very
Hmm.
many women. I think I've met maybe or two women in my lifetime that didn't have to work on being secure, that didn't have to work on, it's okay to be alone. And it's just because we've been brainwashed since we were children that if you are single, you are not good enough. That means you are not chosen, right?
Absolutely,
Even today,
absolutely.
on when I do like female empowerment type videos, even in the Keke Palmer video, I got so many comments from men saying, "Oh, you're just old and single. That's why you don't have a man. Are you married? Oh, I bet you're single." Like being single is something bad, oh,
Absolutely.
gee, I'm single, and that's not bad. And I,
It's not. And Patty, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and maybe this is like a little off the subject, but I just wanted to like prove your point. I lost my mom
I'm
in
so sorry.
August, back in August of 2022. Yes, it's coming up in year in this
Mm.
August. And I've had so many people tell me, "Well, your grieving process would have been different if you were married and if you had
Oh my
kids,
gosh.
because you would have been distracted with your family." And
Oh my God.
I've literally told people off. To, you don't have
Right.
any idea how many people have
Right.
told me that. I've literally told people off. I'm like, grief is
It
grief.
is.
It doesn't have anything to do with
No.
I'm single or if I'm
No.
married.
And you know what? The grieving
Yeah,
process, you have to go through the grieving process. There is no shortcuts. So the
absolutely.
more you're distracted, the more you're not going through the process, the longer it's going to take you to get over
Exactly.
that grief. So the whole distraction of you don't have kids or husband or whatever to distract you, that's just bullshit. None of those people have ever been in
It
therapy.
is.
I've been in therapy before, and I know that it doesn't
Yep.
work like that, right? It just doesn't.
No, it
Yeah,
doesn't. It
it
doesn't.
doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So he quit his second. Let's go back to this. So he quits his second job because
Yeah.
you wanted him close to you.
Yes,
Okay.
I wanted him close to me. And so I would find numbers. I would find out that he cheated on me, but I would just like let
And
it
you
go. I
wouldn't
would just
confront
let it go.
him.
I would just let it go. I would confront
Okay.
him. I would get accused of being jealous.
Oh,
I would get accused of going through his
oh
stuff.
my God.
But I always tell I always tell people this, especially my niece
Mm-hmm.
and her friends. I always tell them, it you're not a man can give you a reason to be jealous. A man can give you a reason to go through his
Right.
stuff. If he made you feel secure within the
Mm-hmm.
relationship, I don't think, you know, any given moment of, a woman would do that.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying that, there aren't like super jealous women out there, but I mean, I was given
so
reason.
What reasons were you given? What were you seeing? Because, I think it's important that we talk about the red flags that we see when we think someone is being unfaithful to us. What were you seeing?
There were times that, I don't know if I could say this or not. Like his phone would ring, and I called it the butt clench. Like he would just clench up because he would be nervous. Oh shit, who's calling?
And you could sense it, right?
Like I could sense it. I could see it. Like his butt would just clench like that,
If you guys aren't watching this on video, if you see what Farnaz is doing, it's just her body like flinching. It's so funny.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just very expressive with my body language. But yeah, it's just, he would do the butt clench and
get all uncomfortable or like weird.
Get very uncomfortable and or like I would even before we moved in together, I would call him at his mom's house when he lived with his mom, and he would not talk to me.
Wow.
Or his sister would answer the phone, and I would just be like, well, is so-and-so there? And then she would like, oh, like, let me go get him. And then she would come back and she would make some excuse, like, oh, I think he just stepped out, or yeah.
So you knew from the beginning. So you know from the beginning.
I knew
you just didn't want to see it.
I just turned
you turned a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And the fact, so we're going back to, and I should actually make this book is the broke ass dude's guide to life or their handbook, And another thing that's in the handbook is calling women crazy when they're cheating. They know that they're cheating, but that calling us crazy. And also another thing that bothers me so much is them getting mad that you went through their stuff. And when you find stuff, you know what I mean? It's like you went through his phone, you found that he was cheating, and he's like, how dare you go through my stuff? You lose the right to say that I went through your stuff and say that I'm bad because of that when I found something, right? The second that I find something in your phone, okay, then you lose the right to accuse me of being crazy. You lose the right to accuse me of going through your stuff. I mean, that's bullshit. And
absolutely. In a cell phone that I paid for. I paid the bill for that cell phone
that you paid for. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right? Yes. And also it was so funny because I would look at my other friends who had significant others, whether it was like a husband or a boyfriend. I would be literally so envious of like, I would be with them, and then like the guy's phone would ring and would be on the table, and then he would just call. He would just call out to his girlfriend or his wife and would say, "Hey, can you check who it is?" Like that was so. I was literally so envious. I was like, "Oh, how come my boyfriend doesn't do that?" It was just like
that. That's the way non-toxic relationships are. Like if my phone rings, I'm like, "Hey, can you see who it is?" Because I don't care. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you find him cheating on you. He would deny it. You knew that it was happening. And at this point, you're still paying for everything, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what happens next in the story?
Okay. So he finished school. And
what was he going to school for? Can you disclose that?
For criminal
justice.
justice.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He was going for criminal
obviously
justice,
he's not going to be very good at it because you're finding out all the stuff that he's doing. So he's not going to be CSI.
Right. Exactly. Maybe I should have gone into criminal justice.
Yes.
So he finished school. He got the job that he was aiming for, and started making good money. Pattie, as far as like just even giving me a gift, I would have been happy with like, I don't know, one cute little like decorated bobby pin,
Something,
like just bring it to me and just give it to me and say, thank you for all the help thank you for everything that you did for me. Nothing.
Wow.
And then he would work the night shift where he was working. And I would, on top of me working, I would come home, I would have food ready for him, like the good little wife, if you want to call it that I was. I mean, we weren't married, but I honestly, I really, I feel like I went through a divorce, like when everything ended, because I don't feel like, you need a piece of paper to say you're married. So, and one time I remember I was vacuuming. And we were in our bedroom, and I walked to the other side of the bed, and I'm vacuuming, and under the bed, he was a Rams fan, and there was a big, huge Rams blanket that he had bought. There were brand new sneakers under his bed that he had bought. He was hiding from me. Yes. Because at this point, he still was not helping me financially.
Well, didn't you say, okay, now that you have a job, you need to start paying for stuff? Or at this point, were you just so like used to doing it all? I mean, I don't know. Like, why didn't you?
I was just used to doing it all. And I was just so scared of, I just didn't want to be alone.
Of losing him, right? Because if you made demands, you may lose him.
Of losing him.
Right.
Exactly. And it was just, it's so funny because I'm like completely opposite now, but it was just the thought of like not being with a man, at the thought of like just being single, it just terrified me. And it goes back to how insecure I was and how much I needed that validation. So what finally did it for me was he came home from work, and I had dinner ready for him. And, obviously he got his mail there too. And I would always get the mail out of the mailbox, but I would not open his mail. So I saw there was a envelope from like child support services.
Wow.
But I just assumed that it was for his first kid.
Right.
But it was like thin, because the statements he would get for child support services from his first kid, they were like pretty thick because there were statements of like what he paid, and this was like just really thin. So he comes in, and then he's eating dinner. I had dinner ready for him. So I told him, I'm like, hey, this is your mail. And I'm like, hey, look at this child support. There's a thing from child support. And I said, it's really thin. I wonder what it is. You should check it out. And then he's the one who told me, he's like, oh, go ahead and open it. So I go ahead and open it. Not
only is he broke, but he's stupid too. My God.
Exactly. And are you ready for this? So let me backtrack a little bit so this will make all sense. When he was personal training, he would always come and tell me about this woman that he was, not woman, girl, that he was he was training. And he would always come tell me, he's like, oh, I feel so bad for her. She's just having all these stomach problems, and she needs to lose weight.
All of a sudden, like he's talking about another woman.
Her, right? Exactly. But he would just tell me, he's like, oh, I feel so bad for her, blah, blah, blah. So, fast forward to when he told me to open the envelope. So I opened the envelope. Did you know her name? And I knew the woman's name. I knew her name. Yeah. So I look at it. It says so-and-so versus his name.
Oh my God. He had knocked up another girl.
And
his third baby mama.
Another girl. So this is the third baby mama. So I showed him the letter, and I said, is this the same so-and-so you've been talking to me about? And he's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure what's going on. That's a mistake. It's a mistake. And I said, well, you know what? Tomorrow morning, you're going to call this county, and you're going to clear this up.
Wow.
So the next morning I went to work. And at this point, this is the point that I was just like, I was just fed up. I've just had it. And I went to work, And I waited until like 10 o'clock and I called him. I called him from work. I said, "Did you call the child support
Mm-hmm.
services?" And he said, "No." And I said, "Why didn't you call them?" He said, "Well, I have to tell you something." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, remember back in December for 2 weeks when we were talking? He said, that's when I cheated on you."
Oh my
No, no, no.
God.
He didn't say cheated on her. He said, "That's when I slept with her." So he said, he literally said this. He said, "So I practically didn't cheat on you because we weren't
Oh
talking."
my, wait, was he still living
And I
with you
said,
during these?
he was still living with me. Yeah.
Wow.
And I told him, I said, "You asshole, we weren't talking to each other, but we were still sleeping in the same bed
Oh
under the
my
same
God.
roof,
And you were still paying for all his bills, right? So yeah,
sleeping
we
for all
weren't
his
talking, but
bills."
you were still paying for all my bills. You're still supporting me. You're
Uh-huh.
doing all of that. But we're broken up and it's okay
Yeah,
for me to go have sex with another woman. I didn't cheat on you. Oh
exactly.
my
For two
God. For
weeks.
two
For
weeks.
two
Oh my
weeks.
God.
Yeah,
Oh, the
yeah.
nerve.
So that just that I think that's just it. I was just so fed up, and I actually like took all my stuff and I just like left. I took my stuff and I left the
Where'd you
apartment,
go?
and I kind of like I went to with my family for a little
Okay.
bit, and then that was another thing. It was just so sad because I was hiding a lot of this
Mm-hmm.
from my
Mm-hmm.
family.
Yeah.
I was hiding a lot of stuff, and I mean, I love my family. They've always been very supportive of me, but it's just I just knew that if I would share this with them, you know,
Right.
they would come down on me. "Well, what are you
Right.
doing?" You
Right.
know. So I stayed with my family for a little bit, and then I went to stay with a
And he
friend,
was living
and
still in the
him and I
apartment that you were paying
he
for.
was living in
Did
the
you tell him to
apartment
get out or
exactly. So
did you tell him he has to leave?
not at
Oh,
that
not at
point.
that point.
No, not at
Okay.
that point. I didn't tell him. No. So I finally, we kept going back and forth, and then like his mom would get involved, and she would call me and say, like his mom always loved
Mm-hmm.
me. She would say, just, can you please go back with him and all that stuff. So I ended up moving back in with him, and but just things weren't
Mm-hmm.
the same. I think it was just like I was just fed up,
Yes.
and it just wasn't all there. Like, so we
You know what
kept
happened?
fighting a
You
lot.
lost respect for the guy.
Hmm.
That's what happened.
Absolutely,
That's what happened.
absolutely,
Because when a
absolutely.
woman,
You're so
yeah,
right. I did.
because when a woman loses respect for a man, it is a wrap. It is a complete and utter wrap.
Exactly, exactly. I just
Yeah.
had it. So finally, what did it? Hopefully, I'm not talking too
No.
much. Okay. Hopefully, what did it was I came home, and by the way, he got rid of the car that I had gotten him, and he bought himself a truck, very nice
So
truck.
he sold when you
So
say got rid of the car that you bought him and he used that money to buy him.
sold the car.
Okay. Buy him.
Well, he didn't use it. I mean, because the car I got
Mm-hmm.
him wasn't like it was kind of like an older
Okay.
car. So I'm sure he didn't get a lot of money from it. He didn't use that, but he
Right.
got himself with his new salary and
Okay.
everything. He got himself a truck. So I remember I drove in. I came home from work, and at that point we weren't even like talking.
Wow.
We were talking. We were sleeping in separate beds. We were just kind of like
Right.
roommates. And I came home and I didn't see his truck in the parking.
And how long?
So I was like, oh, okay, well,
Let's
he's
go back.
not home.
How long is this after you got back together with him?
Um, I would say probably about 5 or 6 months
Okay.
after,
And during those 5 or 6,
if I can
so
remember
during those five or
correctly.
six months, what happened to where you were living like roommates?
It was I, just a lot of
Mm-hmm.
arguments. Um, I Yeah, it was just like a lot of arguments, a lot of back and forth. He would do stuff on purpose to
Like
piss me
what?
off. He would just like um I remember one time I came home And I opened up the fridge and it was like somebody had given him food and he had just left it there because he knew how jealous I could be.
Oh.
And he wanted me to like question it. Like he would leave little stuff around the apartment to like trigger
to like
me,
antagonize you.
for us to
Yeah.
exactly. So for us to start, but at that point, I just started giving the shit
Right.
less and less and
Right.
less. So so anyways, one time I came home and I remember this was in the month of June. I'll never forget. I came home and actually I'm so sorry. Let me correct myself. I did see his truck in the parking, and I said, oh, okay, well he's home. So I went upstairs. And I walked in, but he wasn't there. And I was like, oh, okay, well maybe he walked out or
Right.
something like that. I don't know. And we lived up on the third floor, and we had like a big, huge window. And I went by the window because I remember the night before I had done my laundry and I had like hung some clothes up by the
Old
window
school.
for it to dry up. So I went to like I went to pick up my shirt and I like happened to look down and I see this girl in a Jeep Wrangler. I specifically remember pulled up to the front of the building and I see him walking out
God.
and get into the Jeep Wrangler with her.
Oh my
And
God.
she drove off. And at this point, I'm just like, I'm done.
Oh,
I am
thank
done.
God.
So 10 minutes later, he walks in and I look at him and I said, I want your ass out of here by the end of June.
Wow.
And he's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And I'm just going off on him. I'm yelling at him. And I said, I saw the girl that just picked you up. And he's like, what? She was a coworker. She told me she took me to take some like copies or whatever.
Bullshit.
And I said, I don't
Right.
care. I said, I want you out of here by the end of June. And he's like, well, you can't kick me out. So we're going back and forth, back and forth. And then
Why did he think
actually got
Why
into.
did he think you couldn't kick him out?
He said that, and he was correct. He said that he got his mail there.
Oh, I see.
So I can't because
Yeah.
it's coming up because I actually ended up calling the police.
Okay.
And
Wow.
yeah, so at some point he actually like got into my face, and he was he was a big,
Right.
tall, built guy, and and I'm like 5'4", and he like actually came up to me, and then he said, I'm going to fuck you up. Yeah, and then I literally went up on my toes to get to his face, and I said, I want you to fuck me up.
Oh my God. Like, I dare you. Oh my God.
Yeah, I dare you to fuck. Yeah, that's why I was like literally up on my toes trying to like go up on his level, and I was like, no, like I was Pattie. I was just done.
Yeah.
I was just completely done with his bullshit. So, and he said something like, touch me if you want. And I literally kind of like, and this is a muscular guy, okay? 6 foot, 240 pounds of like muscle. And he said, touch me if you want. And I literally went like this to his arm. And I just like literally like touched him lightly. I said, here, I touched you. What are you going to do? So he like walked away. He walked away, and then he was in he went in the bedroom and I was in the living room. I ended up calling the police station to see if I could actually like literally kick him out or not. Yeah, so I'm talking to him and this idiot thinks that I'm calling the cops on him. So as I'm talking to the police station, I hear him saying, my girlfriend is Middle Eastern and she's making terrorist threats.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so he called the cops on me.
Wow.
Yeah. And the next day, my mom, God rest her soul, the next day my mom was having angioplasty done.
Oh my God.
And he knew that. So I hung up the phone and I went up to him. I said, I'm sorry, I'm cussing a lot, but it's just like all my rage is kind of like coming back after all these years. And I was just like, you fucking asshole. I said, you know my mom is having a procedure done tomorrow. What if they take me to jail?
Wow.
And he said, well, you were calling the cops on me, so I'm calling the cops on you. I said, I was not calling the cops on you. I was calling the police station to see if I could kick your ass out. So the cops show up. the cops show up, and then there he is with his big bad self, because the cops walked in and they said, "We need you to like lift your shirt to him,
to
not
make sure he
me,
doesn't have any weapons,
and turn around." Yeah, exactly. And he was turning around. He's like, "Well, I work for this and this probation department," and the cops were like, kind of like looking and were like, "We don't care."
They're like, those are the
Exactly.
those are the guys that we arrest the most.
Yeah, exactly. So one cop, like they talked to him, and one cop comes to me. He was like an older gentleman. He was so nice. He comes up, he pulls me aside, and I said, and at this point I started crying. And he said, "I know you're a very nice girl, and I know you wouldn't do anything on purpose to him, but he said he like you like grabbed him on his arm." And I looked at him. I said, "Look at him.
Yeah.
He's 240 pounds. Like, do you really think I can hurt this guy? Like, he doesn't have any bruises on his arm." And he's like, "I get it. I understand." And he said, "Next time something like this happens, please, I want you to just walk away." And he was right. He was absolutely correct. He said, because he said, if you had left any bruises on his arm or anything, I would have had to take you in. Yeah. So he said, and he's like, "If you can get away from him today, just leave." He's like, just walk away from him. So at this point they left, and I'm like packing my stuff. I'm trying to leave. And he starts apologizing. "I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what got into me." And at this point, I didn't even care. I wasn't even like talking back to him. And I just told him, I said, "Keep away from me. Just stay away from me." So I'm like packing my stuff, and I was going to actually go to another family member's house. And he pretends that, and then he all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my God, my nose is bleeding." And I just grabbed like a whole bunch of cotton balls, and I said, "Here."
I wouldn't even done that. I would have been like, "So?"
Yeah. I said, "Here, take care of yourself." And then he pretended like he fainted. And I literally, Patty, I grabbed my bag like such a soap opera. I grabbed my bag, and it was like, like, seriously, this could be like a funny episode in some show or something.
Oh my God.
It was so fucking funny. And I literally like walked over his body and left. Like, literally stepped over him, and I just like left. And
that's classic.
Yeah, and that was it. That was it. Wow. I was just that just did it. I was just done with him. God. I just done with him. God. Yeah, he finally moved out. Yeah, thank God. He finally moved out, and I finally moved. And then about a month later, he tried to get in touch with me.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Of course he did. Yeah, he left he left a voicemail for me, and stupid me, and I like ended up calling him back. It was like before Thanksgiving, and then but I wasn't like, I think I just wanted to know for myself, but I wasn't falling for his bullshit. And then he threatened that he was going to kill himself. So I ended up calling his mom, and I told her, I said, "I just want to let you know he's threatening to kill himself. Maybe you want to keep an eye on him." I'm changing my phone number.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And then she was very apologetic to me. She's like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry," and all that stuff.
Wow.
And the funny thing is that to this day, this has been years. This was in 2004. Wow. To this day, he still tries to get in touch with me.
Yes, I know. Isn't that crazy? That is also in the playbook? Because my broke ass dude that I broke up with, I think it was the same time, like 2004, 2005. To this day, he's asking our friends, "Is she still single? Is she single? Is she single?" Like, dude, first of all, I'm engaged, but second of all, even if I were single, what makes you think I would get back together with you?
Absolutely.
You and your dusty ass. What am I going to do with you?
Yeah. Yeah, he tried once with his sister, because his sister and his mom are on my Facebook.
Right.
And they both have been really sweet with me, always. So they like me and I like them. So there's no reason for me to have any animosity.
Right, I'm friends with his sister and his brother still. They're really good people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but he tried with his sister once, and then actually just recently he tried with his mom. His mom sent me a message and said, "Oh, so and so, he thinks you're beautiful and he wants to send his condolences for your mom and all that stuff." And I was just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Like, that's nice.
Yeah, because you know what?
Yeah.
He knows that he
Yeah.
will never find another woman like you that was so good to him, that was so generous, that was so loving. And he is just a complete buster. Because if he weren't a true buster, and he hasn't changed, by the way, but if he really wasn't a true...
No, he hasn't.
Definitely If he wasn't a true buster, he would have never allowed a woman, or anybody for that matter, not just a woman, anybody, to take care of him like that. He doesn't have any self-respect, right? So a self-respecting human being would not allow someone to pay for all their shit. And when they did get a job, they'd be like, "Oh, hey, you know what? Let me pay you back. Or let me chip in. Let me pay for some of this. Now, you know, I was down and out before."
Exactly,
right?
Patty. Exactly. Yeah.
And ladies, this is...
And then that was my whole thing this whole time, that I just did all this stuff for him. I was just in my own naive mind. I was like, "Oh, he's gonna pay it back. Like, the roles are gonna get reversed once he gets his job."
Yeah.
And it
never changes. No. Ladies, do not fall into this trap of it's going to change when he gets a job, or when, because this person, if he was not a complete buster, he wouldn't allow you to pay for everything. Period. I mean, that is just period. The fact that he's allowing you to pay for everything tells you who this guy is. And he is a person who takes advantage of people, who has no self-respect for himself, and will just take and never give back, and it will not change. So
absolutely,
in closing, Farnaz, what would you say to women that are currently dating a broke dude, or think that, you know what, it doesn't matter if, you know, if he's broke or not, I have enough money for the both of us, and love conquers all of that nonsense? What would you say to these women?
I actually thought about this, and I have three pieces of advice to tell them. I actually wrote it down. The first one is, don't beg for anything in love.
Don't beg for anything.
You don't beg for anything.
Exactly.
Have standards and be patient, that you will find the right person that is good for you. And the last one would be, you don't owe any men shit.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
You don't owe them shit.
I love it. Yeah. You don't. What you owe somebody is honesty and truth, right?
Absolutely.
And love until they betray you. But you don't owe men anything. If you are afraid that you're going to lose him by asking him to chip in, by asking him for money, this relationship is not a relationship. This relationship is based on fear and your insecurities, and it's going nowhere fast, ladies. So if you are in a relationship with a broke man, or you think that money doesn't matter, it does. And he doesn't have to meet you dollar for dollar, I always say, but he has to meet you hustle for hustle. And he has to have enough self-respect to where he is not allowing you to pay for everything, and him just accepting it without even thinking, you know what, maybe I should give some of it back.
Absolutely. And you know what? I always say this. I'm at the point of like, it's not about being a gold digger or anything like that. But I feel like if you can't add on to my life, I'll struggle on my own. I don't need another person to struggle with. I am completely happy struggling on my own. Not that I'm struggling, but you know what I mean.
And it beats a hell of a man to beat having no man at all. Being alone is a lot better than having some dude who was disrespecting you, treating you poorly, and not giving you what you deserve. So we can end with that. Farnaz June, thank you so much for joining my podcast. It was so great to have you. Pattie. I'm hoping that a lot of women will listen to this podcast and learn from your story, because I know that your story is so common. Again, it happened to me, and I really appreciate you being vulnerable and open and honest and sharing your story with us. Thank you, Farnaz. And for the listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We are off, and until next time, never forget that a man is not a financial plan.